My name is Kωνσταντίνος Kondovrakis. I am a producer from Athens, Greece. I was asked to be here to introduce originally Yanni Tilges, who's the head of studies of EAVE. It turns out that I have to introduce Jacques Akchoti, who's one of the story editors at EAVE. 5 years ago, I had this crazy idea to abandon my former career as a film critic and a festival programmer and become a producer. I don't know if that was a very wise idea, but I can definitely assure you that along the way I had the chance to participate in a great experience, which was EAVE, or some of the English-speaking crowd call it EAVE, or as we do call it here in Greece, EAVE, like the French. I'm not going to tell you anything about the program itself, because that's what Jacques is going to do, as someone working for it. What I can tell you from my end as a participant in the producers' workshops is the following. When we work in the film industry, there's all these people who tell you, oh, film producing is something you can only learn by experience, you need to produce films and you need to be in the shoots and blah, blah, blah. And it's something that is completely empirical. And then you have a whole different crowd of people who tell you that, oh, you need to go to film school, you need to be trained by specialists and so on to get all the theoretical background to do what you need to do. What these people often forget is that there's a middle ground there, which is training for professionals, which is what EAVE does. And it's a program designed by professionals, by film professionals, for professionals. And on top of that, what's great about this experience as a film professional is what Yanni has once said on the very first day of the proceedings there. What happens at the EAVE stays at the EAVE, which means basically that it is for those who choose to go there and are eventually selected to participate. It feels like a home, and the people who organize it and the people who are around you feel like a family. It's a very secure, very protected environment that has only one aim, which is to improve you as a professional. This is where I'll stop, and I'll pass the mic on to Jacques Akchoti.
It's difficult to take over. Oh, okay, I don't need to push it. Okay. So my name is Jacques Akchoti. I am a script writer, consultant, etc. And bizarrely, I'm presenting to you a producer's workshop, which says a lot about the spirit in which we do work. So EAVE has been there for like 25 years. It has been created in 1988, and it is to the point of what we were discussing this morning, which is it came out and it has been created at a moment where the whole production world has been changing in the 80s, because before that we used to produce films in a certain way, and with the growing of Europe, and because the media program created a whole system to finance training and films, etc., the whole approach of filmmaking has changed during that time. And the great idea about EAVE then, that was created by a guy called Raymond Ravard, which is a Belgian head of the Belgian Film School, was that co-production was going to be very important in the future. So the big idea of EAVE is really co-production and networking. So the concept of EAVE is training and training professional people. What I mean by this is that we do select a number of participants we do select every year 50 participants from all over Europe. So, and when I say Europe, well, at the beginning it wasn't like this. Now it's the larger Europe. So we go from Romania to Ireland. And sometimes we have a few guys from all the other parts of the world, but this I'll get to later. And we bring them together to find out about producing and co-producing. Historically, EAVE at the beginning was based in Brussels. It is now based in Luxembourg. It is funded by media, partially. And there are different programs. So there is the main program, which is the old one, the one we started with, which is the EAVE program. And then we have additional international programs, which are not linked with Europe, but other parts of the world, which I'll get to later. So the idea is that we have created over the years a network of producers. There are like 1,200 like alumni all over Europe, and they get together during festivals. And what has happened over the years is that these people work together. What I mean by this is that like 50% of the projects we have are co-produced within the producers. And what happened also is that afterwards, because they have all the same approach, and it's the independent approach of filmmaking, they tend to work together on their other projects. So, what we do is that we select 50 producers. Actually, in reality, it's not completely true. There are around 40 or 45, because what we get is that we have a number also of people who are interested in understanding and finding out what producing is. So we have people from funds, we have people from RIMAGE, we have people from different bodies or institutions who are also interested in finding out the problems that producers encounter in their work, because these people are going to work with them. Okay? The whole idea here that you have to understand, and this is maybe where the co-production thing has changed things around, is that producing now is a collaborative effort. Okay? So institutions, funds, etc., are not really against you, theoretically. And so they are here to sustain projects, and all the funding bodies and the subsidy bodies in Europe tend to finance films just because they believe it's a cultural asset for their own country and for their own culture. So among these 50 producers, we have two different types of groups. We have people with projects, right? So it's producers who come with a project that they wish to develop within the workshop, and we have people without projects, who are people who come in just to find out more about producing. What you have to understand is that we don't take beginners. Okay? We take only people who have produced at least documentaries, sometimes one feature film, sometimes no feature films, shorts, but some people who have experience in producing, or people who are attached to bigger production companies. Okay? We take, among the producers with projects, only 30 projects. Okay? So there are 30 fiction projects. What I mean by fiction projects is that I mean mostly feature films. Right? We have sometimes TV stuff, but mostly we're concentrated on feature films. And we take also 5 to 8 documentary feature films too. Okay? So that gives a range of 35 projects, more or less. So the people who have a project can eventually come also with their writers. Okay? So what this means is that at the end of the day, we are like almost 100 people, because we have 50 producers, they come in with like another 20 writers, then we are like a gang of 20 experts, and then there's an organizational team, etc., etc. So we are like 100 people, more or less. It's like a circus. And we move around Europe, because the program is divided in 3 different sessions. Right? The first session takes place in Luxembourg, so it's 3 weeks. The first session is always in Luxembourg, because Luxembourg is a major partner in the program. The second session travels around with partner cities. And the third session also travels around. The two first sessions are concentrating on the projects, and the third session, we bring in decision makers. So the whole idea of the workshops is, at the end of the day, to produce and package projects so they are presented to decision makers at the end of the third session. But this doesn't mean that they're going to be financed. It's not the idea at all. The whole idea of EAVE is that we concentrate on producers and their production companies. Okay? So we do take projects. The reason why we take projects is that we use the projects as case studies. Right? So that things become very concrete and we don't talk about abstract stuff. Right? So the idea is that we say, okay, you have this project, now you have to learn how to present it, okay, and how to create a project. And also, we're going to see how this project works with your company and how your company is able to eventually finance this project or not. Who are you? So that people give you $1 million or 500,000 or 2 million or 3 million, etc. So how you present yourself, how you present your company, how you finance your company, how you finance the development of your project, etc. Everything down the line, okay? So it's really very much oriented on defining the personality of the project and defining the personality of the company and the producer who's behind the project. So, in order to achieve this, we have gathered a bunch of experts that cover a number of different fields. Okay? So what we do is that the 50 producers are divided in 4 groups. Each group has a professional producer who does international co-production from different countries of Europe, obviously, who leads the group. So we call them the group leaders. Okay? These professional producers are in activity, obviously, and they all come from different countries. Okay? Now, on top of these group leaders, we have a series of other experts who eventually visit the groups or have individual meetings with every single producer. And these experts cover different fields that are concentrating on production issues. So we go on, we start off with like pitching, for example. So how you talk about your project, how you talk about yourself. So you learn to present your project with words and physically. Then we have marketing experts who come in and say, okay, how you're going to present your project in terms of marketing in the development phase. Okay, so you cover marketing obviously from the development phase to the release of the film, but at the stage where we get the projects is at the beginning. So we see how marketing can help the development of a project. Then we have experts coming in for covering all the legal issues. Okay, contracts, co-production contracts, development contracts, music rights, etc. Others come in to to cover the financing. So for each project, we study how this project could be financed within the European scheme and obviously the national scheme where the producer comes from. And we see also how eventually it can become a co-production and where and who would eventually be interested in such a project. Right? So all this obviously is a series of suggestions. Then we bring in also sales agents, distributors, so that people understand the landscape of producing countries and how the system works and how sales agents work and how you can get your film to exist somehow or another. So all this is just to help people define and target an audience for their project, depending on the country they come from, obviously, so that their project becomes feasible. The idea, again, and I insist on this, is not about the project, it's about the people. Right? What we're interested in is developing people so that the network we have created works and that the people get connected and have some sort of basic language and basic understanding of what co-producing is about and how they can eventually work together in the future. what you have to understand, and this is something that has been raised this morning, is that in the 80s, what has happened is that production has moved from being a very nationalistic thing to becoming, a very international kind of thing. So the thing is, the idea is obviously that you need to connect with other people. So, connecting doesn't mean, and this is not an idea we really back, doesn't mean making Euro-pudding stuff. It's just making local films, but the thing is that the financing can be European, right? And that's why you have a number of European bodies that finance, local films. So, after that, once you've been through the program, obviously you're part of a network, so you receive the monthly newsletter, which is never ending because, over the years there are more and more people, more and more projects. At the last session, you get to meet around 50 decision makers who come and look through a book that we call the catalog, where they can see all the projects, the producers, the companies, and they decide who they want to meet and discuss the projects with them. And again, when I say decision makers, it doesn't mean that they are going to necessarily invest on the project. It just means that they are going to discuss it. It's a training program. It's not a producing program. But the thing is that our participants get to know and see how a sales agent thinks, a TV channel commissioning editor thinks, etc. So they get to meet a panel of people and see how the questions and how these people approach their projects so that they can understand how the system works. The other main session in EAVE is obviously the bar, right? Because that's where things really happen. Okay? So the thing is that the evenings are quite long because that's where people mingle and that's how they get to know each other. So as he was saying, what we say is that at EAVE, anything that happens at EAVE stays at EAVE. The thing is that the idea is that we want, again, to create this network. So in order to create this network, we have to create a safe place where people can freely talk. Right? And obviously the bar is a good place to talk, especially when you drink, Tsiruopo or, that kind of stuff. So anyway, so this is the general concept of the main EAVE program. Now, after that, what happens is that we have links, obviously, with the major festivals like Cannes Producers Network, Rotterdam Lab, Baltic, Ivenglo, Carno, I don't know, and you name them. So all the major festivals are connected more or less with us. At every festival, we organize networking moments so that people can meet, and also newcomers to the EAVE program can meet alumni participants, so that we enlarge the network and the people. What happens concretely is that we have conducted a study and we discovered that actually 35 to 40% of the projects that have been developed within the program are actually produced. And very often they are produced between people from the program. So besides that, also what you get is also that we have an online site, let's say, where you can get all sorts of documentation, for participants, and videos about the lectures themselves, etc. So this is the main program of EAVE, the European one. So it's 3 sessions, okay? This year, for example, the first session is always in Luxembourg. The second session was in Turku. Turku is in Finland. It's usually in the summer. And the third session, which is going to take place very soon, is in Vienna. Next year, Luxembourg, then Bolzano in Italy, and then Istanbul for the third session. Now, besides the main EAVE workshop, we run a number of other workshops. One of them is just about film marketing, so it's like 4 days, just about film marketing. Another one is called, it's a new one actually, it's called EAVE Plus. So this is really for very experienced producers who are trying to find new business models and discuss the situation and how things are evolving, etc. So you have to be quite experienced to be part of this selection. And then we have our international branches. So we do, actually the way this happened is that people from other parts of the world started asking us to do programs for them, okay? And usually they are linked with festivals. So we have one in South America, in Puentes. We call it, the program is called Puentes. What we do on this program is that we take 10 projects, 5 European projects and 5 local projects from South America. Obviously, the projects that we take from Europe are projects that have some sort of connection with Southern America, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. The idea behind this is to have local producers meet European producers and see how they can eventually work together. Okay? So we do that in Puentes. We do this in the Far East. Okay? It's a program called Ties That Bind. And we have one, so these programs are shorter. There are usually 2 sessions only. So for Ties That Bind and the Far East program, it's one session is in Udine in Italy. The second session is in Busan during the Korean Film Festival, which is almost now, soon. Then we have another one that is called Interchange. This one is a bit different because it's a collaboration between EAVE and the Torino Film Lab, which is a writing lab, and with the Dubai Film Festival. So on this one, we take on writers and producers, and we try to have producers presenting a project with writers. Okay? So, and the idea is to develop during the 6 months that the program lasts, a relationship between the producers and their writers. When, something I forgot to say earlier, when I said that the producers can come to the EAVE program with the writers, the whole idea, again, is to help the producers understand how to work with writers. Right? Because usually writers, directors, tend to think that producers are just there to go run around the countries and get back with some money. We don't really believe in this. We believe that actually when you make a film, it's a collaborative effort. Okay? So even in the development phase, because this morning I heard a number of times that people said, okay, I had the script and I went to the producer. Okay? In our understanding, a producer can come very early on a script. And the result, this finished script, is a result of the collaboration. Okay? In my personal experience as a writer, I've noticed that the same project written with different people, with different producers, becomes a different film. So the question is that the producer is really a partner in the development of a project. So this is one of our focus, is that we say, okay, you producers, you have to learn and talk to your writer, and you have to know how to talk to him. And the writers, when they come to the program, they can sit through the plenaries and all the week, where they can understand also the problems and the complexities the producers encounter, so that they can then communicate around their project and understand where they are taking it. So going back to our international thing, so we have this partnership with the Torino Film Lab and the Dubai Film Festival, and it's a program called Interchange. This program concentrates only in Arabic Arabic-speaking countries, right? So obviously, the European producers who are part of the program are producers who are interested in producing in these countries. And then we have another program that's called BEST. This is like the post-Soviet program that takes place in St. Petersburg and in Tallinn, and it concentrates on the northern part of Europe, large Europe. Okay, so these are like the main international branches. Okay, they are shorter programs. Then we do another thing called EAVE on demand. These are like smaller sessions where different parts of or different countries, different parts of the world, come to us and ask us to create for them a very specific program on a very specific issue. So it can be anything, really. It can be just producing, it can be writing, it can be whatever is linked, obviously, with production and films. And so it's like tailor-made programs, okay? So recently, personally, I did one in Palestine, or I did another one in Georgia, where we meet producers with projects, writers, and we see what can be done with the projects they have. So more or less, this is what the EAVE is about. Right? The philosophy behind it is obviously to defend independent producers, right? And to develop the skills of these independent producers within the newer environment. The big thing about it is that the people, when they meet, obviously everyone comes from a different country, so everyone can explain how things work in his own country. Okay? So that everybody gets a knowledge and a perspective on all the systems and the fundings that are available to everyone. And also, given the talks I heard this morning, for example, if you say, okay, I come with a Greek project, well, obviously, if you come to EAVE, you will understand how and why a Greek project can interest eventually the European community or a European partner. So that's mainly it. If you have other questions, please don't hesitate.
If there's any questions, just raise your hands. Before that, I would like to, having been as a producer myself in EAVE with a project, I have to say that, I mean, I will use one of a phrase you used, which I think is key in understanding what this is all about. I see a few people here whom I know they're young producers. Producing is a very, very complicated process, and it involves a lot of fields of expertise that you need to know. And I think that the main what I gained and what I understood through the whole experience of being at the EAVE is defining myself as a producer, understanding who I am as a producer, what I can do as a producer, what I can do better, what I can do badly, and how I can improve myself in all these directions. So understanding my strengths and weaknesses as a professional and my character as a producer. And this is something that is a huge gain, I think, on a professional level. So if there's any questions, please.
It's a producer's group therapy session.
Group therapy, yes. Yeah, so it often feels like a group therapy. Yeah. There's people crying often in the groups.
I would like to ask about the main program. They have a producer workshop. The cost, I think it's quite expensive. And what about the scholarships given for Greece, especially for this crisis situation?
Okay, I don't know that we have a special plan for the crisis situation. The thing is that we are financed, partly from Europe, the media program, okay? And in our mandate, what we have is that we have a budget for scholarships, okay? The budget for the scholarships doesn't necessarily cover everything. So it depends, really. It's really, every case is different, and given the situation also it's different, etc. So what we get is that also we have, besides this scholarship given by the European scheme, we have also sometimes national scholarships. Like, for example, the French CNC gives us a scholarship so that we bring in some producer from an Arabic country, or things like that. So we had people from New Zealand, we had people from different parts of the world. The thing is that it's really, the scholarship business is really an individual thing. Okay, so there is no general rule, but there are scholarships available. Now, the cost of EAVE is quite important. So I have the details for you. So the thing is that when you are a participant, you have to pay, let's say, two different things. Okay, there's like the tuition fee, like when you go to school, you have to pay a fee for being in the school. So the tuition fee, if you have a project, is 2,750 euros. Okay, and if you bring in a writer, it's another extra 1,000 euros, so that's 3,750. If you are without a project, is 1,750. Okay, it's detailed. The thing is that this just covers the fee for being at EAVE. Okay, then what you have is that you have all the accommodation and the traveling fees. Right? So, and the accommodation fees are usually 1,400 a week. Okay, plus the travel fee depending on where you come from. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's somewhere between 8 to 10,000 euros. Right? So the scholarship can cover parts or all of it. It depends. And also what you have to understand is that in some countries, like in England or Scandinavia, or they have government subsidies for this kind of trainings. So I don't know what the situation is in Greece. But you should ask.
Yes. From my experience, back then, the Greek Film Center, which is always someone you can turn to ask for funding, individual, like funding for participating in events like that. I did the EAVE 4 years ago, or I don't remember, 2011. Yeah. 2010. And it was impossible to get any money from them back then. But now I have a project which participates in a different program, the Torino Film Lab, and they backed up with a very small amount, but still it is something. So you can always turn to the Greek Film Center or the national funding body if we have people from other countries here. Maybe the Greek Film Center can consider doing a scholarship, introducing a scholarship just for this program. This would be a good idea. And also, the people at EAVE are always very open to discussing the scholarships. I mean, they're quite flexible and quite open to discussing. If there will not be, I doubt they will be able to cover the whole amount, but at least partly, if you explain the situation and tell them where you stand financially and what your options are, how much, and they would be very keen on and willing to discuss this with you if they're interested in selecting you as a producer. So don't be shy about it. You can always discuss it with them.
But this for us, this has always been a problem, because the thing is that, in the northern countries in Europe, often they have scholarships for this kind of program. So for us, it has always been difficult to get people from, for example, Mediterranean countries like Italy, Greece, even France. But France is another issue because they don't speak English, because it's an English program. So the thing is that, we are interested, because again we want to expand, and also because we are interested in it. So we try to find ways, so to help the people who are selected to get really into the program. And it's not always easy, but
adding on that, it is a lot of money. It will cost you at least, even if you manage to get scholarships from here and there, it will cost you at least, I would say, 3,000 euro. I would put another cap of at least 200 for the bar budget, especially if they take you to Switzerland and Sweden as they did with us. Anyway, but it is. It will sound a bit of a cliche, but believe me, it's true. It's an investment on yourself. So consider it as an investment. It will pay back. Please. Can you repeat the question? Because
Yes.
The criteria for the selection.
For the selection, how many applications? Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to tell you. I think the selection, I don't know. I don't do the selection. So I don't know. But I think the thing is that there is a selection, right? So it's not like, plus also what you have to understand is that we try to take people from different countries. So we have 1 or 2 or 3, depending on the necessities of the program. So in order to cover and give a full perspective. So I can't tell you really what are the criteria. The thing is that what I know is that people who come to the program have some sort of experience, right? So they have produced at least short films, right? Often they have produced documentaries, right? And sometimes they have also produced feature films. Right? So, but the thing is that the criteria in reality change depending on the countries, right? Because some countries where it's, let's say, easier, quote unquote, to make films, the criteria are going to be a little different than in countries where it's impossible to make a film. You understand? So we try to find, again, ways to make it a rich experience for everyone who comes. And sometimes also what we do is that we suggest to some producers to come without the project, whereas they thought of coming with a project. Sometimes some producers come without the project and they regret and they come in with another project a bit later on. Sometimes what happens is that because we study the project and we find out that actually the writers and the producers are not getting along and they get into a divorce situation. I mean, anything can happen.
yes, there's a question there.
Nicola.
Yeah, I just want to add, I did EAVE 2007 myself, and as you said, it was really one of the best investments in my professional career. I came without a project just to understand what production is about. I built up beautiful friendships to people from other countries. I was never able to access the French market because I don't speak French. I met Jean de Forêt. Now I have somebody in Paris I can always call. I get all the informal information, which is sometimes very important to understand how a country is run, like what are the prices, what television, what world sales are paying for that territory. And on a very simple, practical event, I managed to have a room in Cannes for only 700 euros for the whole period because Jean was able to book it with his French knowledge. So there's a lot of advantages. And towards the selection process, in many countries, especially in the biggest countries, there's so-called national coordinator. So it's somebody who did EAVE himself. It's an experienced producer who is like watching the market, and he's always meeting, like in the first pre-selection, the participants. And my experience is that it's a lot about the interview situation. So you're very often interviewed, either Tina Trapp or the national coordinator, and it's a lot about convincing them, like, why are you, the right person to do EAVE? So it's not like just filling up some form and then sending, and it's really a lot about human interactions. And I know a couple of people like you who were not taken the first time, they were taken in the second round, and they really liked it. And I had also a great group leader who was very open, also, like spilling the beans by starting saying out that he turned down a movie because he didn't get along with the director, and that movie got the Oscar. So that immediately gives a lot of trust that you hear things you would never hear at film festivals or, let's say, at ordinary film school. That same group leader was always telling me, watch your overhead, like get your investment back. So next year after doing it, I told to the team and I said it's important to have somebody talking about festivals and being the festival advisor. So I'm doing that for 5 years. So there's also somebody who will tell you if you participate in it, how to work with festivals in the right way. It was really one of the best experiences in my life.
And just bear in mind that we're talking about group work and professional and personal development. So your personality is very important, and I think it's something that is. I mean, of course, I don't do selections for EAVE. I don't even work for them, but I would suppose that it's an important criterion. Your professional, of course, character and side is the most important because it's a professional event. But I'm sure that because we're talking about group work and about intense group work, and about, you know, when you're in the group at EAVE and you work on the project, everything comes out. Nothing stays hidden. So it really is important. Your personality and what you bring personally to the rest of the group is very important. And what you get from the rest of the group. Any more questions?
It's not the Palo Alto School of Psychotherapy, huh? But the thing is that the idea, again, is to get the people to connect and understand each other, and to understand each other projects. Okay, so obviously, if you know, it happens that people sometimes come in and they don't want to communicate, etc. You know, but you know, as they go, they get relaxed about it.
We have only 5 more minutes, so if there's another question, we can take 1 or 2 more questions. The lady up there. Can we please wait for the microphone?
Do you suggest the program for other people involving the industry, like writers or cinematographers, to be helped to found a producer or
No, we don't do that.
Script development.
No, for writers, the thing is that, again, we concentrate on producers. So the thing is that we take writers on board, but there are writers that are attached to the project the producer brings in. Okay? So we don't take other technicians, etc. Our goal, again, is to concentrate on producing. You see, because the thing is that producing, over the years, producing has become very technical, as I was saying in the beginning. Okay? Before, producers, you know, were a bunch of gangsters playing at the roulette table, you know, and they'd say, okay, I bet on this film, and let's see what happens, or, you know. And that's it. Nowadays, with the sophistication of the financial system, okay, all over Europe, you know, all these different countries, everyone with its rules and its credit schemes and the thing here and the thing there, and you have to spend here and you have to spend there, and, you know, all these complications, then you have to be a mathematician to understand this whole goddamn process. So the thing is that that's what you learn. So you learn to understand and to trust people, because the Yuko producer is about, is going to be someone you'll have to trust. Yeah, not all the time, but most of the time, in order to be able to work together. So that's also within the program. That's what we try to build. We try to build trust relationship, if possible. So yeah, so that people can really, you know, work together.
Okay, I think we need to stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacques.